I worked out for Saturday.
Yeah, I am too.
Cool.
All right, folks.
All right, we there? Good morning,
We are
everybody. How are
here.
you?
Good. Victoria, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Jonathan, good morning. Jonathan
Good
Silva.
morning.
Jonathan Silva, Rabbit Savior. And we are on, and we are talking a lot today about a lot of things, especially about Tony and E. cuniculi. How about if we start, if you don't mind, and talk a little bit, Victoria, about yourself?
Okay.
Tell us about you. Tell us all about you.
So I'm obviously Tony Milo's BunMom. Never thought I'd be so obsessed with bunnies, but here we are. I'm in college.
I'm gonna be rude. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
What was the tipping point for bunnies for you?
So that goes into your second question, actually. I don't know if you want me to go there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But,
yeah. Okay. Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I was gonna say, so I actually always wanted a pet, but my parents were always like, no, you don't need it. We have a dog. And then I actually ended up getting Tony at a flea market. He's being sold as food. So I saw him and instantly I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way. So it was kind of out of the blue. I was in law school. I wasn't really expecting to get a bunny. I didn't know anything about bunnies. And when we found Tony, he was like the size of my hand. He was about like 4 inches big. He could barely walk. He could barely do anything. And we were actually in Puerto Rico. And I think what they were doing was giving them to like farmers to raise them and then eventually eat them. So we ended up saving Tony, and this is where we are.
Wow.
Was it something in you that just couldn't let it go to be sold for
Oh, no,
for
not
slaughter?
at all.
Was that
Yeah,
it? It bothered you?
Yeah, definitely. There was no way. I mean, honestly, if I knew he was just going to a home, I probably wouldn't have taken him, to be quite honest. But knowing that he was going to be sold as food, there was no way. So.
Wow, that's that is wonderful telling us that, because so let's talk a little bit about E. cuniculi.
Okay, perfect.
What can you tell us?
So before, I mean, obviously I'm not a vet. I'm going to law school. So before Tony, I knew nothing. And it all kind of came as a whirlwind. So with Tony, it started off that when he was a baby, he had bright blue eyes, and we're like, okay, cool, he's beautiful. And as he started getting older, his one eye started looking purple to me. So I would take him to the vet, and I knew nothing about exotics even in general. So I take him to the vet and I'm like, does this look strange to you? It's like a faint purple. They're like, no, it's probably just turning brown. Like it happens to a lot of babies, human babies. So I'm like, okay, you're the expert, fine. A few months go by, it's not brown, it's still purple. I'm like, are you sure this is right? Like his eyes just straight up purple. And if you go on our Instagram, you actually can see pictures where I'd be like, oh, it's Tony's purple eye. And I would kind of make light of it because all the vets were telling me it's just changing color. And then one day it started looking red and it was no longer purple. And I was like, all right, something's up. But I didn't know anything about EC. So I started looking things up, and EC was always popping up, but you never really hear about it in the bunny community. So then I started realizing, obviously, it's a parasite. It can attack the legs. It can attack the eyes. So it started to worry me because I'm like, something's going on with his eye, and clearly EC can do that. So a lot of times what EC does is it can cause cataracts in the eye and uveitis, which is almost like inflammation in the eye. So Tony's eye was actually starting to get attacked by EC. So EC is a parasite that basically can attack the nervous system. It can attack the brain, and it just really embeds itself in their tissue. And it's really quite scary because unless you have the panicure, there's really no stopping how far it'll go. But most bunnies have it, and most bunnies can fight it off. But for the bunnies that can't, it's really troublesome.
You said that about panicure. We talked a little bit off air about panicure.
Yes.
And at that time, and again, this was probably a couple of decades ago, I bought panicure at you didn't have like Amazon and all the delivery services. This was this was the olden days. And in the olden days, I found it at like a farm store as a horse dewormer. And I was a little skeptical, but cleared it with Pete the vet in the UK. And I was surprised how well it worked, that and penicillin.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about panicure?
So Panicure, it's a really strong medication. Like you said, it's even used on horses, cats, dogs, goats. I mean, it's a really broad spectrum dewormer. So I know it's not only used for EC. And again, I just always want to put it out there. I'm not a vet, so this is not professional. This is just my understanding.
Correct.
But for Tony, I knew that it was super dangerous. So we were blood testing him every week while he was on Panicure, because what it can do is it can actually make them anemic and start attacking their bone marrow. So it's a really important medication, but it's also really important to monitor before it gets too strong. But typically you do the 28-day course of Panicure once a day, every day. Some bunnies need it for a little longer, but I've never quite understood when vets tell you to go further or to stop. I mean, it's really a parasite that they don't know too much about, even the vets. Like there's so much research that they're still working on, so it's hard.
Yeah, it's difficult if the research isn't, if they haven't come to a conclusion as to where it comes from or how it's transmitted. Is that correct? Or how
they know
bunnies
it's
get it?
transmitted, but I don't know where it comes from originally. But for bunnies, it spreads through their urine. So any inhalation, ingestion of the urine, especially so any bunny with EC will always have EC. It never fully goes away. So even the Panicure won't really take it away. It just kind of makes it go dormant, to my understanding. So any bunny that's shedding active EC spores is basically a danger to other bunnies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so scary.
Yeah,
It
that
is.
So was the eye the first sign of EC for you?
Yeah. And Tony was in, it was, I think when he was 7 months old. So he was old at
Really?
that point.
Wow. And he was fine? No signs before that? Just
No, he was actually crazy. Like you would have never guessed he was sick. He was hyper. He was binkying. He used to jump onto my bed that was like 5 feet tall. And he was like a tiny little bunny.
Wow. Isn't it wild how they'll jump up on you?
Yeah.
We had a bun that would jump up on from the bottom of the bed and it looked like flying from the side. It just looked like they levitated, right?
Yeah.
so speaking of binky, and he binkied yesterday, right? Did you get on film by chance?
Yes, I actually, so the first one I didn't, but I had to brag about it on Instagram.
Yes.
And then last night, me and my boyfriend Nick were watching him and he's jumping around in circles, binkying. And we like couldn't believe our eyes
That
because
is so rad.
he had never binkied since February. So we're just sitting there. We're like, all of a sudden it went from like 0 to 100. And like we've been seeing the last week, he stopped all his medications and slowly but surely he's just, I guess, feeling more energized without all the pain meds and everything. So
that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So that shows obviously that he's very happy.
Can we see him? Where's he at?
yeah, I was gonna say he actually left his tripod.
There he is.
Oh, look.
Oh,
Oh, look. Playing with his
Hi,
ball.
baby.
There you go. Oh, he's just
Cute.
he's just adorable. Adorable.
Beautiful.
I've got so the Instagram handle, tell us.
The loved
Love
buns.
Loved the loved buns. The loved
Yes.
buns. And you can see the binky there, correct?
So I'm gonna post it today.
Oh,
it
I'm
was a
sorry.
night shot. He did it in the dark, but I'm definitely gonna put it up on our story so everybody could see it.
Oh, that'll be great. We'll be
He's so
watching.
cute.
We'll be watching for that. When did you first notice the head tilt? What was it was the eye first, correct?
So yeah, it was the eye first. And like I said, the eye was gradual. The eye took months because he had that purple eye for so long. He's hiding from us. So he had the purple eye for so long that I was like, okay, the head tilt shouldn't progress too crazy. But the head tilt was quick. The head tilt within a matter of days was very severe.
Oh, wow.
So there was one day where I had really become so familiar with EC. Once he got it, I was like going nuts about it, especially because the vets were like, we know stuff, but we don't know it all. So I started trying to learn whatever I could online. And once I saw his head, it was like the one day it was straight. And then the next day it just looked like this. I'm asking all my friends, I'm like, does he look tilted to you?
And you're
Like,
showing for listeners, you're showing just a little bit, like a few, like maybe
And it
5
graduated.
degrees. Yeah.
like maybe like just 5 degrees off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
does he look tilted? And they're like, no, you're nuts. Like he looks fine. And they're like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? Like, are you sure? And then the next day it was like maybe 25 degrees. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
he's definitely tilted. Everyone's like, oh wow, you were right. Like he does look tilted. And then within 3, 4, 5 days, he was a tilted bunny.
Wow.
So
But he's happy though, which is good.
Yeah,
yeah.
looks very happy. And that's the thing. I know too often people make a choice to euthanize. My understanding is, and not try to treat. And with the treatment today, it's amazing. It just, the ability for them to live a happy life is amazing. And he just absolutely looks, for listeners, he absolutely looks a very happy bunny.
Yeah,
Right, Jonathan?
I love it. Now, will the head tilt actually go back to somewhat of a normal, stable condition, or would it always still be like that from your knowledge?
It's hard to say. We have friends who I've talked to whose bunnies had EC as well, and they're fully normal now, like
Really?
completely back to normal. For Tony, the last like week, I've had a big change in heart about his tilt. But if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have told you it's never changing. At
Change your
that
heart.
point,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was gonna say like 2 weeks ago, it had been months. It had been since February, and I hadn't seen any lesson in tilt. So I was like, all right, he's actually climbing up my back right now. So I was like, I think this is how he's gonna stay, but he's happy. He can do everything. He can jump. He can run. He's fine. But the last week, every single day, he's looked a little bit more hyper to me. And then he started almost doing the zoomies. And then it was like, maybe that was a binky, but I'm not sure. So now I really do think that there's a chance that he's just improving each day even more. But either way, I mean, he's Tony, he's happy. So
That's so cool.
And that's what matters. He's got a good life. Oh, there he is. For listeners,
There
there
he
he
is.
is playing. And his head's very tilted, but he's very, very, very happy.
Yes.
Very happy. Obviously. Well, sorry, Jonathan, I get a little mesmerized. I forget we're broadcasting. Can't have any dead
So
air.
cute.
Yeah, he is adorable. He is adorable. So you changed your thought a little bit about whether the head will stay tilted, or can you clarify that a little bit?
yeah, so at first I was not really seeing much of a change. He was always kind of running in circles, which is a very common thing for head tilt bunnies. They tend to run like these tight little circles. And he had been doing that for months, like basically the last 2 months. And I was like, all right, maybe this is just how he's always going to be, but he's happy. And now that I started seeing zoomies and binkies, a lot has changed for me. And I'm hoping he'll keep playing, but usually he can straighten his head out completely when he wants to. Whoa, I think he just tried the binky.
Yeah.
It looked like, yeah, he can straighten his head out
Oh.
when he wants to. Victoria?
Yeah, he can. I'm going to show you guys in a little while. I'll give him a treat. But he can actually fully straighten out his head. So it's really
Wow.
interesting.
Wow.
That is, that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And I don't have the experience or expertise.
Yeah, I'm still
with
learning
that.
as well.
Yeah, with these, and you do, but I just didn't. Wow, he is just. I've never heard of a bun being able to, bring their head back up like that,
Yeah.
straighten their head.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You wouldn't think, because like he is always tilted every time you look at him, but
Yeah.
if he's eating or if he's playing, he will straighten it out. So
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, that's wonderful news, and
yeah,
maybe more optimistic that. I mean, even though he's very happy, obviously, it's very obvious that he's happy, that his head could straighten up.
yeah, definitely. That's what we're hoping, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, as long as he's happy and has a good life.
Now, are you off the
Definitely.
meds completely right now? No medication? Are you off the medication right now? What's his
Yes.
take? Okay.
Yep. And he's probably doing the best that he's ever done since he's gotten his tilt.
Wow, that's amazing.
You've got your other bun.
Yes.
Any
Symptoms,
signs of
signs?
symptoms?
No,
Anything?
so we tested her and she was negative. So like
Good.
I said, I think the figure is 60 to 80% of bunnies have EC, but most of them can keep it under control. So I think that luckily she's one of those, because when we put her with Tony, we had no idea that he had it.
Sure.
So that was actually a big risk for her. We had never even heard of EC. So that's why our whole Instagram platform has been focused on EC.
EC, yeah.
Because when I hadn't gotten Tony, I knew nothing about bunnies, and I kept hearing RHTV, RHTV, and I was like, okay, this is serious.
Yeah.
But I never heard about cuniculi, and it's very common. So
It's very common. There's a lot to get to. I mean, I was doing research and it's way beyond my scope. It's just a lot of information. Yeah, it's nuts. And with him so happy, I love it because it's like a lot of people I've been reading online. Oh, let's just put him to sleep. Let's just euthanize, quality of life. And
Right away.
You can make the bunny happy, just keep it.
Yeah. If it's quality of life, it's all about quality of life. If the quality of life is obvious, it's very good. Again, go to your Instagram, the loved buns, loved buns. And you can see how happy he is. And those that are able to watch today, see how happy he is. Just the idea of euthanizing it. I don't want to go into a whole, I always say that, Jonathan, don't I? I don't want to go into a whole thing about it yet.
Yeah.
Here comes a whole thing about it. I just wish people would educate themselves. And if you are going to bring a rabbit or any
animal
pet into your life, you make a commitment.
Correct.
It's not about what's easy for you. It's about what's best for them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, do you get a lot of followers asking you questions about EC?
All the time, and I always have to stress, I'm like, I'm not a vet. I'm not a vet. I only know from my experiences, but I will say that learning on your own and learning firsthand, I don't think there's anything like it.
No, there's not.
I think online there's not a lot of optimism, and it's easy to just be like, maybe I should give up. Maybe he's not going to get better. But when you do the research for EC, you can tell that it takes a long time to recover. I mean, I remember reading in the beginning, it could be 180 days for a tilt to go away. I was like, whoa.
It's a long time.
I mean, for Tony, it started in February and we're still here. So
and happy. And you're right. People, there's not a lot. And I get it. We call that a disclaimer. That's your disclaimer. I'm not a vet yet, but you have the experience. And that's what's important.
Definitely.
You've had the experience, what works for you and what you have read about that works for others. And spreading that message is really important. Again, people would free, and I don't get running to have, the bun euthanized, but I understand how upsetting it is because it looks painful. It looks rough.
Painful.
It looks, it's hard to look at the bun and not feel badly and wonder. They can't say, well, I'm in pain. I mean, I know rabbits will show, hide and things and do certain things if they're hurting or ill. Yet people need to slow down and and research it and get the information and do the best they can to treat.
I think the hardest thing is with the tilted buns, they always get into that rolling episode where it's frightening to watch, especially firsthand. I'll tell you, there's nothing like it. It's probably one of the most heartbreaking things you could see, just to watch them rolling over themselves where they can't even stand up. But a lot of bunnies do that and then they end up normal. Their tilt goes away. I think the hard part is we need to realize that it's usually not painful for them. It's more discomfort.
Comfort, yeah.
And I always try and put myself in Tony's shoes and what would I want my mom to do for me if that were me? And I think the big thing was if I have to go through a little bit of discomfort in my life to live, I'm okay with that. But I don't feel the need for like euthanasia for him. It's like he was discomforted. It's basically similar to vertigo, as in you can't stand, you can't get your balance. But the big thing for me was making sure he was safe while he was rolling, because that's where it gets frightening. That's where they can actually hurt themselves. But I always put pillows, blankets. I covered up the cage so he couldn't get stuck in it. Anything sharp and hard, we took it out.
Yeah.
So I really wasn't frightened for him at that point.
Because you've got to adapt for that. You've got to change the environment.
Yeah.
Make sure that they don't get hurt. And again, you've got great experience with how to do that, and spreading that with your huge Instagram following is great. It's great. What other kind of questions do you get about?
I get a lot of questions. Most people always ask me, how long was it before Tony seemed better? Has he binkied? Why did he jump? Like, how did I get him to jump? A lot of head tilt bunnies can't jump. So that was a big thing. And Tony's just a fighter. I don't know. Everyone gives me so much credit, but it's him. So I get a lot of questions of how is he like this? And
he's a fighter.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, And he's actually over here. He's infatuated with everything right now. Water bottles,
He's
trying,
like,
Everything. Yeah. And listeners,
but
he's just exploring. He's exploring his turf. Oh, he's adorable. Oh, he just went around the water bottle. Well, almost
no,
around.
no. I should leave it like that, maybe.
He certainly does look very, very, very happy. But it is you. I understand you want to give all the credit, Victoria, to Tony, but again, it's your love and care that was vital
he's so cute.
for him to be okay, having him in a good environment and all the love that you give him. That's
And
important.
I stress that to people too. I don't know. I'm like this crazy bunny lady where I always say that I feel like they feel our energy.
Oh, 100% they do.
When Tony was really sick and he was rolling, I was the most scared that I've probably ever been with him. And some days I wanted to break down. I wanted to cry. And I'm like, I can't cry in front of Tony. I can't talk bad about his state in front of Tony. So I'd leave and I'd be like, oh my God, he seems worse today. But I would never do it near him. I would always hug him, lay with him.
I love that.
And I think the important thing, I would get down to like ground level and I would just lay flat on the floor with him. And some people, their instinct is to pick the bunnies up. But when they're dizzy, that makes everything worse. So I'm like, you need to get to them. Oh, he just binkied and we missed it.
Oh, we missed the binky.
We missed it.
We missed it. Doesn't that always seem, that's with the camera, that seems for me a lot of times it's like I grab the camera, and again, being an old guy, I'm not very quick to get got to do the password and then get the camera up, and then they don't do it. And as soon as I put the camera down, then you see the action.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they know we're recording and they don't want us to see it.
I'm not, I
don't know if you
thought
saw
he was
that.
on the move.
Yeah.
It was like his mini binky.
Victoria, Save Some Bunny Rabbit Rescue says that neck and back massages help a lot. What do you know anything about that?
Yes. So our vet, they said you can gently massage, but obviously bunnies are fragile.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't take a lot. Like they always told me, be super, super gentle. You like a little bit goes a long way. So as light as you can just to massage. And they also taught us a trick of grabbing his neck and trying to straighten it out as a form of physical therapy. And for a while, I thought about putting a video out about doing it and trying to help people. But my honest belief with that is that bunnies are too fragile and I don't want to be responsible for helping people do that. So our vet showed it to us. And I always tell people that there are ways, but I want their vet to teach it to them because I just don't feel comfortable doing it. So we do have something that we do for Tony, but it's stuff that I'm like, I don't want to share just because I trust myself, but I don't want to give people the wrong.
No, Victoria, I respect that 100% wholeheartedly because there's a lot of people online that try to give advice, their opinions, and they're not vets. So you really don't, I mean, I see the help in what they're doing, or showing, but I think that's the great, version of what you just said. Just do it for your own good and that's it. And don't share it, show it.
No, I agree with you, Jonathan Silva. I agree with you. I think that, again, something like that, as fragile as they are, you've got to be very cautious. And I understand, Victoria, why you wouldn't want to give that advice online. And my experience has been even vets differ in their protocol, their care, what they recommend. Yeah, their protocol, their care. It differs. It differs with different vets. That's why it's so vitally important to get a vet that's experienced. Jonathan Silva, Rabbit Savior, we've talked about this many times. Find one that has experience. Oh, look, he was on the move. Find a vet that has enough experience with rabbits before you bring your rabbit to them. And there's plenty of them today.
Yeah, and I think honestly that the pickings between rabbit-friendly vets are way more slim, obviously, than for cats and for dogs. So as an owner, we really need to do our due diligence to find a good vet, because even with Tony, we have tremendous horror stories with EC going back to our old vet. So it's something that I speak very heavily about on Instagram.
Do you want to share any of that? Are you comfortable sharing any of that?
Yeah, I can actually share. I'll flip it back to me because he's sleeping now. But so when Tony first had his whole eye thing going on, I actually had a friend who's going to med school and he had come over and I'm like, look at his eye. Something is just not right. And at first it was red and he's like, maybe it's just a little irritated. Maybe he's grooming it too much, like messing with it. So I was like, okay, we took him to the vet. The vet said it was a bacterial infection. I'm like, okay. So we treat him for a bacterial infection, and each day I'm giving him eye drops, and it's just getting worse and worse. I'm like, are you sure this is a bacterial infection? So then it started that white spots were developing. So I take him back to the vet. They're like, that's pus. I'm like, pus on the eye like that? It's just weird. So I have my friend come over. He looks at him again. And again, he's going to med school. He's not in med school. He's not a vet, but he's like, that looks like cataracts. And I'm like, really? So I start looking at cataracts. Like I said, I know nothing. Like, I'm in law school. I don't know medical stuff. So we're looking at cataracts. I'm like, oh, it kind of does look like that. So you take him back to the vet. No, it's a bacterial infection. Okay. So fast forward months later, and Tony needed his eye removed because he had cataracts and uveitis. And that was because of EC. So when we took him to that vet, they didn't even mention EC. They looked at Tony and were just like, yeah, it's infected.
Wow.
That is a horror story.
Yeah.
It is a horror
Yeah.
story.
And so
You've got a different vet now.
yeah,
Obviously.
definitely.
Oh,
People,
man.
and people need, go ahead. I'm sorry, Victoria.
I know, I was gonna say we also had more horror stories with that vet, so it's like never ending.
Do you want to share another one? You know, I don't want to be negative, but people need to understand what can happen if you haven't
Yeah.
done your research and haven't selected the proper vet to care for your bun.
Yeah, I could share a little bit. So we had our old vet, the same vet. They were quote unquote an exotics vet, but you know how that goes.
Yes.
But they basically gave us Panicure for Tony, and they gave us a way smaller dose than what he needed. It was about 10 times smaller than the dose that he needed. So he was actually on the incorrect dose of Panicure for about a month and a half.
Wow.
At
He's
what
so
point,
cute.
at what point, I'm sorry, Victoria.
Oops, sorry.
Okay, no. At what point did you realize that about the Panicure, that the dose was too low?
That was, like I said, it was about a month and a half
Yeah.
in.
But what did you decide? What did you do?
So we actually switched vets, and our new vet was like, that seems really off. And I'm like, I know. At that point, I had questioned the old vet probably about 3 or 4 times about the dose, and they were like, no, it's correct.
Was it too much or too little?
Too little. It was 0.03 when it was supposed to be 0.34.
Oh, wow. That's ridiculous.
And then,
So-
the new vet, tell us about the new vet.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely. Like, I have no complaints at all. The old vet, I used to second guess everything, and the new vet, I'm like way more than comfortable.
That's good.
And we're in New York, but if people ever need a EC vet, I love her.
Do you want to mention that vet or?
Yeah, sorry, I'm like clearing my throat. I was a
Oh,
little
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Victoria.
Just give me 1 second.
No, I'll take your time. Jonathan, she's amazing.
I know.
She's,
Really good
yeah,
person.
and has a lot of experience. And
Yeah.
the other thing is willing to share it. She's willing to share it.
Yeah. Which is
You know,
good.
that's so important in the rabbit community to get that word out. So, and again, you and rabbitsavior.com do a brilliant job at that, getting that
Thank you very
information
much.
out. Thank you. It's important because
Yeah, it
again,
is.
how do you know? How
Yeah.
do you know? How do you know what to do? Again, back in the olden days when there weren't these groups online, I'm always referencing the olden days,
Yeah.
but you didn't, you really had to. And fortunately, with our first bun, we ended up switching vets quickly and found an amazing young vet that was, I don't know, an hour and a half away, but it was so worth it to take the bun there. and
Yeah,
get
just
that
crazy how
start.
EC is just so, I mean, it could come out of the blue.
Yes, yes.
Instantly.
All of a sudden you see, all of a sudden you're starting to see signs of it.
Yeah.
I think that's tragic that the vet didn't recognize the issue with the eye and then had to
Yeah.
subsequently remove it. So that's bad. There, you back?
I'm
Back?
back. I'm
Very
all
good.
good. I had like
Good.
a sore throat from allergies the last few days, and it's something.
Yeah. I'm allergic to bunnies, hay, everything. So
Oh,
I
me
Allergic
too.
to bunnies. That freaks me out. You're
The
allergic to
hair,
bunnies.
everything. So I have to load up on Claritin every day. So right now my sinuses are pretty stuffy, but yeah, but it's worth it though.
I
Yeah,
love
I'm
that.
allergic to hay too. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So my face is swollen. I'm like, I can't breathe.
Yeah, you
Yep.
love you love your buns, right? You love your
Oh,
buns.
yeah.
So it doesn't, it's,
Exactly.
you'll deal with whatever, right? You'll deal with
I'm
whatever
okay
it
with it
is.
100%.
Definitely.
And he's sleeping now, correct?
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's adorable.
They always snuggle.
that's so
That
rad.
is so beautiful. That is so, so beautiful. And again, you've got lots of pictures up at the Loved Buns on Instagram.
Oh, I love your page.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
It's so much good information, Jonathan, correct?
Yeah,
So much
no.
good information.
So what vet are you using in New York that's very good with EC?
So in New York, we use Island Veterinary Care. It's up in
Okay.
Huntington, New York. They have been absolutely amazing. They're so brutally honest, like, and not in a bad way. I don't mean that at all.
No, well,
No,
that's, you want
But
that.
You want that?
I love it. Like, she flat out said to me the first day, she's like, I don't know if his tilt is ever going to go away. I'm going to be honest with you. And I was like, that's okay. I've accepted that. But she's like, he's happy. He's doing well. His blood work looks great.
It's great.
And she was always on top of his health in the aspects where I really felt like he needed it. So she was always doing blood work. Anytime I wanted a refill of medication, she wasn't just quick to give it to me. And she also
Right.
just wasn't quick to say no. A lot of vets would be like, no, it's dangerous. And they don't even look at the bunny before they say no. And then a lot of vets will just over medicate. So for me, she's perfect. She'll look at him, she'll examine him, she'll do his blood work. And then based on all of that, she'll make her decision. But also at one point I was thinking of doing laser therapy for Tony's neck. And she was like, I wouldn't go laser. I would try acupuncture. I think it might be more helpful. And now, mind you, she offers laser and she doesn't offer acupuncture.
Wow. Wow.
wow.
That's
So-
that, talk about ethics, right? Jonathan, talk about
That's-
an ethical
Exactly.
vet.
So I just have a lot of love and respect for her. And all the medication that she gave was perfect. She stopped everything, in my opinion, at the perfect time. Like I said, Tony, we just switched to her about a month ago, and I've never seen him do so well. So
That's
That's
amazing.
beautiful. And again, you want them to be honest, of course. You need them to be, you know, there's, of course, there's a way to present it or not, but it needs to be presented. You need the facts. How can you move forward if you don't have the facts? And they need, and I love that about the medications and the fact that she does the laser, not the acupuncture, and recommended against the laser and for the acupuncture. What about the acupuncture for Tony? Have you
So-
pursued that? Or?
I actually looked into it, and it's a lot more expensive than I thought. So I guess that's why a lot of people don't do it. But I was looking into it, and it was far. So it was about an hour and a half away. The sessions were about $250 per one session. And I was like, the car stresses him out like you wouldn't believe.
Oh,
When he was a baby, it actually really didn't. But then when his eye was removed, he started to hate the car, which rightfully so. He had a big
Sure.
surgery.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I try not to put him in the car. And I think that for his well-being, it's just better off that he's at home. And at one point I had found a mobile acupuncturist, but they don't come to our area. So
But he's doing well. So I don't know, you know, I don't know anything about the acupuncture for EC, and I don't know what the
Yeah.
success rate is, but he's doing so well. correct?
definitely.
He's so
And
happy, and you don't want him to be stressed in the car, especially for a long
No.
ride. If you
Yeah.
got to go to the vet, you got to go to the vet. I understand that, but to take him on a long trip in the car, you have to balance what, you know,
Yeah.
what is the possible benefit, but what's the downside?
Yeah. So I had a
Exactly.
question. What is the most important thing you want the audience to know about EC? In your
I would
opinion?
say what I hadn't known earlier, which I wish I knew, is that stress can cause flare-ups. So we were talking about how EC never goes away.
Correct.
But the problem is that it goes dormant and then it can come active. So a lot of times, any big stressor will make the spore become active again. And I don't know the medical reason behind that. I don't know why it is. But anytime they get really stressed, there's a risk for them. So when we put Tony with Mila, he actually got worse because he was stressed. And we didn't realize that that's what was going on. But I don't know, stress with bunnies is something different.
It
it's
is.
like- You can't compare it to any other animal, really.
No,
Yeah, yes, they're very different. That's what I always say when people think they want to adopt a rabbit. They're not
they're
not
very
cats and
different.
dogs. Are not, yeah, very, very, very different. If you don't mind, some rabbits with EC don't get the head tilt. So what should people look for?
There's a lot of signs. So, like I said, there was the eye with Tony. So that's a big thing for me is inflammation in the eye, the redness of the eye, changing of color of the eye, which was
Yeah.
crazy to us. Cataracts. You have paralysis. A lot of times with EC, you'll see like a hind leg paralysis where they can't really walk. You see like frequent urination, so like a lot of bladder issues. The tilt, obviously, but there's a lot. That's why I'm kind of disappointed that there's not that much out there as far as resources, because there's so much to look for and it's so dangerous.
It is. And again, early, like anything, earliest detection, best possible outcome.
Best possible
Doesn't mean
outcome,
the
yeah.
cure, but I've known that with humans, with any living creature, the earlier you're able to get a diagnosis, the better possible outcome
Possible outcome, yeah.
with treatment. And you can't wait. You can't wait. You've got any sign of that. And the signs, again, that's so vitally important for people to know. And you, Victoria Miller, you does a great job with that. The Loved Buns, it's loved,
Yes.
L-O-V-E-D, the Loved Buns, and the Loved Buns on Instagram. You're absolutely wonderful. And
Well, thanks for all the information.
And Jonathan
Oh,
Silva,
no problem.
rabbitsavior.com. Any updates?
They'll be soon, hopefully next week with some updates. I don't want to spoil it right now, but it'll be
Okay.
on social media, so it'll be good.
Okay. Well, Victoria Miller, thank you so much.
Yes,
you
thank
what
you
you're
so
doing
much.
for the
No
rabbit
problem.
community. Thank you. And I'm glad that you have such so many followers, because the more that information gets out there, that important,
Yes.
that vitally important information, the better for all the
And
buns.
actually, before we go, I don't know if
No,
you guys
go.
want to, I can
Please.
try and get him to straighten out his head for you if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you've got time,
So,
you got
yes,
time.
just bear with me. I'm going to grab a treat for him if you guys want
that's
to.
fine.
Yeah,
Chat, thank you.
And then,
no worries.
no problem.
Take your time.
I'll do
Take your time. Take your time. Wow, Jonathan, what do you think?
That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I love how she takes 100% care of the whole situation. You know, a lot of people, you know, I don't know their morals, but they would just
Euthanize.
money up.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do it, just give it up. You know,
And some
unfortunately.
people, if they're scared, but they need to get the information,
Yeah.
because it does look, I remember with our,
It looks
it looks
painful, yeah.
painful. It looks sad. I mean, you know, remembering when you first start to
That's-
see it. So I understand
see
the
both
thought,
sides,
but
but
first,
I
yeah,
mean-
but you don't run to euthanize.
No.
Just like if you had a two-legged family member that was
Yeah.
showing signs of something, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, you wouldn't. I shouldn't say whack them. You wouldn't, you wouldn't
Yeah.
give up.
You wouldn't just
Let me
get
say it
rid of
like
them.
that. You wouldn't get, yeah, I'm trying to think of that.
We don't need
Right,
you
right.
anymore. You blinked funny. Let's
Yeah,
go out in the parking lot.
yeah, something. But that's, again,
But yeah,
that's so
no.
important, because again, it does look painful. Even when I see, you still think their heads are all the way to the side.
I know.
Yeah.
But as
Yeah.
long as they're happy and
Yeah.
they show that they're happy, that's all I care about. Look,
And obviously,
Oh,
there he goes.
oh,
Look at
I
him.
see.
Oh,
I see it.
That was
you
a
see it?
binky.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it.
that was
Here.
great. That was great. Oh, look,
Come here.
look what he's getting.
Here. Let's see.
Let's see if he,
No? You want it?
no.
No.
Wow.
Of course, I'm on camera now. I'm not doing it, Mom.
Meanwhile, he loves food and he's just not going to take it now.
I'm just not doing it now. Oh, that's, isn't that typical though, Jonathan? When you want them to do something.
That's what we were just talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
with the camera. Yeah.
Here.
And then nothing. What kind of treat is it?
It's a orange popsicle, but he's totally not interested.
I see that.
He's too focused. He's showing off.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that is great. It's great. Yeah.
That is awesome.
We'll see. Maybe
There's a
she'll
better
eat it.
close up. Yeah, there's a
want
better, maybe. Oh,
Oh, she wants it.
Oh, she's so cute.
Now she's
oh, that's
awake.
great. Yeah, yeah. No, she's beautiful also. Can you
Yeah.
take a
Oh,
minute and tell us
thank
about
you.
her? Oh, here, now he wants
Oh.
it. It's like, what do you got there?
Oh.
I want some too.
What are you doing? You want it that way?
he is.
Oh.
Yeah, for listeners,
There it is.
they are both
Adorable.
very beautiful buds. Anything else you can tell us about Mila?
Yeah, so Mila, we actually rescued her from Palm Beach, Florida. She was actually kept in a small cage in a garage.
I'm sorry. I saw his head tilt up a little bit.
Yeah, let's
like
see. Oh,
Yeah, look, yeah. I see it's, yeah. I'm sorry. You were talking about Mila, the rescue.
oh yeah, that's okay. Here, let me see if I can
Oh,
straighten.
look, I saw his head. I'm not hallucinating, am I?
Yeah,
No,
I've seen it too.
let's
Okay.
see.
Let's
There
go
he
because-
goes.
There he goes.
Oh yeah. Wow. Look at that. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I know people don't believe me when I tell them. I'm like, he can straighten it. He just
Yeah.
doesn't. He just,
It's more comfortable for whatever reason for it to be
yeah.
tilted. Yeah. Oh, that was incredible.
Let's see. Want to straighten?
Look at that.
No.
Look at that. He's straightening. For listeners, he's straightening his head. That is just, that's
Okay.
fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is. I'm sorry about the rescue.
Yeah, so
There's buns, so we keep getting distracted.
so Milo, we actually got her from a rescue. I think it's East Coast Rabbit Rescue in Florida. But she was actually kept in a small cage in a Florida garage before we got her. So she's a little timid, she's a little scared of people. She likes to hide, but she's a really sweet girl. She is.
How long have you had her?
We got her in October.
Oh, so
Okay,
she's
yeah.
relatively, I just quickly, we rescued a rabbit that had I'm not going to go into the details, a horrific background and time. Slowly, she came around. She would scream at first when she see my hands and back up, which is horrific. But through time, she became one of the most loving bonds. So it's good that you letting it happen gradually
Yeah.
and what's best for her.
Yeah, exactly. She always, I mean, if you see on our stories, I don't post Mila because she's always in here. Always. And it's like I can only
She's
take
safe.
the same picture 10 times before it's like, okay, we get it. She's hiding. Where Tony, as you can tell, he's always on the move.
Yeah.
So everyone's like,
Personalities.
you favor Tony. I'm like, no, he's just out, and she just doesn't come out. She's just hiding.
Yeah, and
But,
it's best to let her do her thing, and she feels safe there. So why not?
Yeah, exactly. So we just let her beat to her own drum, but she's cute. She loves cardboard. She likes to chew on anything.
Yes, I know that. They are.
Where
they're
Tony
adorable
actually really
together.
doesn't. He only likes like palm leaf plates like this. I don't know if he'll chew on it, but no.
No, I'm on camera.
Not
Mom,
today.
I'm not doing it.
Let me see.
That's-
I can probably show you guys one more cool thing before we
Cool.
jump off.
That's great. Oh,
He's so adorable.
he is,
They both
right?
are.
Yeah, they both are.
They both are.
Let's
It's
see.
great.
I'm still in my pajamas, but we'll rock with it. Okay. So they actually know the sound of their treat jar. Usually, I don't know if they're gonna come. Tony will.
There's Tony.
Come here.
Oh my God, that's great. Oh, that is wonderful.
Come here.
That is wonderful. He hears
Yeah,
the
you-
sound of the treat jar and comes running.
No.
Look at him. Oh, he is just, listen.
Yep.
Oh, there's Mila. There she is.
She
Yes.
likes her treats. Let's see. We can.
Oh, she is just adorable.
Adorable.
Actually, Victoria, the one rabbit that we rescued that had those issues was a lion. It looks very, very much like your
Really?
Mila. Yeah. They come for treats. Look at
Aw.
that. Tony's right up there. He's right. There's Mila. Look, coming up. I'm sorry, listeners. I know it's terrible for
Yeah, you gotta see
audio.
this.
It's
So
terrible.
cute.
Oh, well, you can find the video later, right, Jonathan? You'll be able to
Yeah,
find
we'll
the
post it
video.
online later today.
Yeah. Well,
I was
they
gonna
are.
say, this one you definitely need the pictures too, the
Yeah,
video.
you sure do. You sure do. Well, I understand why the loved buns. I understand the handle.
You're an
the loved
amazing
buns.
bun mom.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're so
Absolutely.
welcome.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing so much, Victoria Miller, with us this morning.
It's
That's
my
wonderful.
pleasure.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Hopefully we can
Of
do it
course.
again. And the Love Buns on Instagram, and of course, rabbitsavior.com, and on Instagram, Jonathan.
On Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, pretty much everything.
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you all. Jonathan, as
Yes,
always,
thank you guys.
Victoria Miller, thank you so much.
Thank you
Awesome.
guys. It was great.
That was
See you
great.
later.
Sure was. Lots of good information. Lots of great information, I should say.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a good
Thank you.
weekend.
You too.
You too.
I'll do.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.